And he said, I'm looking forward to the game. I'm intrigued by the game. So
Andy McEntee is with us this morning. Andy, good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, lads. How are we doing?
Mayo people should be up for Galway, Andy, on Sunday. Do you know, Connacht people, like, supporting their own.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Hey, no should or shouldn't, really. You know, it's how you feel on the day, isn't it?
This is it.
Yeah.
This is it. I do feel when Mayo win All-Ireland, Galway people, there was a bit of a divide. A lot of them definitely wanted them to win. A lot of them definitely did not want them to win. But it's different for Galway that we just rocked up after all these years.
I think they enjoy their misery as well. I mean, you know, it's just been, you know, they're like rubbing their hands in glee over it. But I don't think anybody, if Mayo ever won, I don't think anybody would begrudge them.
No.
Yeah,
so much
that is the point of a rivalry, though.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Before we talk to you about your new gig, what do you think is going to happen on Sunday?
I think Galway have a real chance. I genuinely do. I think both sets of forwards probably have an advantage, and maybe it's a bit of a cliche. I think midfield is going to be very important. Whoever wins that middle sector gets the right supply into the forwards. I mean, you'd imagine, you know, Clifford one end, Comer the other end. There's a couple of potential, I think, mismatches. So
mismatches.
Yeah, I just think. I mean, I think there's a lot of pace in both sets of forwards, and you know, if you can get good quality ball in, I think either set can really cause trouble.
There's a lot being made of Paddy Talley and the difference in Kerry's approach this year from previous years, and what he's brought to the party. And obviously because he's from the north and that's where the strong defensive systems originated, we're assuming that it's been a plug and play for him. Has it been plug and play? What have you noticed about Kerry's defence under the Talley regime?
I don't know. I mean, I think there is a little bit of a myth out there that, you know, if so long as you have a northern coach, that defensively, you know, there's loads of good defensive coaches and teams that have come up with good defensive structures. I mean, Dublin have had, you know, arguably the best defence around over the last 10 years. So it's not their sole property, if you like. I think Kerry are probably, you know, hard to know how much they've learned, how much they've improved really until the squeeze is really on. I mean, you could argue, I think most people would argue if Con Callahan was playing the last day. Not so sure they'd have got it over the line.
Yeah. Maybe if Scully recycles the ball, like, you're talking fine margins here.
Yeah, look, in all those close games, you really are talking fine margins, and you know, it was getting to a stage where Kerry were struggling. You know,
is that a psychological thing because they haven't got over the line, that's not in the team yet? Whereas if they get over the line, then they'll know what to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's always a possibility. You know, once you know it's no longer a mystery. Once you win one of those big games, and you know, beating Dublin was, you know, I mean, from a Kerry perspective, you'd like to think that that's got the monkey off the back, and they can go on and really perform to the, you know, the ability that everybody seems to think they have. But the truth of the matter is, over the last number of years, Kerry haven't won too many close contests. And the way the game fell the last day, I mean, it was, you know, an incredible strike by Sean O'Shea, but it couldn't have been any better, really. I mean, it was, you know, okay, ball goes wide, we're still in the game here.
Yeah.
Ball goes over, Dublin don't have a chance to respond. So I still think that question mark hangs over, and if it came down to a real tight battle.
So if you're setting up a team from Galway's perspective this weekend, like in that first half against Derry, Galway were ultra defensive, and they sat back and they watched, and they've got credit for that in some ways, in that it was like they were super patient. They were like, let's see exactly what you have. You're not going to score the goals early that you scored against everybody else to win games, and let's see if you're actually able to win the match after that. Was that strategic, or was that them not playing very well themselves in the first half? Did it look like they were just doing what their plan was? What did you think of that?
Yeah, I was at that game. It looked strategic to me. It looked there was a very definite lack of pace. I mean, it started. I mean, the bit that surprised me a little bit even was just from their kick-out strategy. no hurry to get the ball on the tee. And I thought they had an advantage. You know, they had a height advantage out around midfield, half forward line. There was a lot of opportunities to go long quick, which they seemed to resist that temptation.
Why do you think they're doing that? Is that like we're gonna this is this group's first All-Ireland semi-final, the prize is huge, calm down everybody. Is that what that is?
Yeah, and you know, you don't want to get caught against a team like Derry. You don't want to get caught, you know, trying to chase the game, because, you know, that's a perfect setup for Derry. So there's a little bit of cat and mouse at the start. I was a bit disappointed in that. I felt a bit like Sunday. I felt Galway's forwards would have the edge if they really attacked them. Derry, you know, put in a great performance, excuse me, against Clare, but there were still goal chances to be got against them. We played them in the league earlier on in the year. We got numerous goal chances. So I was a little bit surprised that Galway's hesitancy or reluctance to really go at them in the first half. I think when they did pick it up and went at them in the second half,
it was fairly obvious they were the superior team.
Yes, yeah, I thought that, yeah.
Is there a possibility they're as cagey in the first half just because it's an All-Ireland final and they want to see what Kerry can do, or is it actually, like, is it better to go out and try and punch Kerry in the mouth in the first 15 minutes?
Well, I think the difference between Kerry and Derry, for example, is that Kerry have a lot more guys that can hurt you. I mean, you know, the vast majority of Derry's scores came from one source throughout the year. So I could see where they were going to be a little bit more cagey at the start against Kerry. You know, they have numerous sources that can hurt you.
It could be if the pattern of play is similar as it was to the semi-final. It could be 8-4 at half time for Kerry, and Galway might not be able to get that back though. So there's a danger in sitting.
Oh, I think if it was 8-4, 8-5, yeah, I think they could get that back.
Okay, they'd be happy enough.
I think so. I mean,
Dublin got it back, like.
Yeah,
but
without doing anything special, really.
Dublin have better forwards than Galway at the moment.
Dublin have won many All-Irelands and know what the experience is like. I think that's the bit that we don't know how Galway will respond.
Interesting. Like, so Galway, to me, what do you think of that? And Galway don't have the shackles of failure anymore because they don't really know what it's like. They have the experiences this year coming through 3 or 4 tight games and winning. So I don't see them as mentally negative at all or weak.
Yeah, and I think just from a mental, you know, approach to the game, coming into the game, I think there's still an awful lot expected of Kerry. And I think the vast majority of people say, yeah, Kerry, you know, you're after beating Dublin, you're in a position here. Galway are in a nice position here. I'd like to think that they could and really have a go at them when it came to this. If you're there with 10 minutes to go, 15 minutes to go, you're thereabouts, you really have a cut.
The last 3 teams, as Owen Sheehan keeps pointing out this week, the last 3 teams to beat Dublin in the Championship have failed to go on and win the All-Ireland. Like, there's a kind of weird letdown.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's circumstantial. I'm sure it's not like, you know, because they celebrate too much or anything, but...
I think our only win since, I could be wrong on this, our first win in Croke Park since 2001 in the Championship was against Kerry. So they're literally the only teams, and we had that amazing Michael Meehan game in the rain. Galway Kerry games at Croke Park have traditionally been close. I don't think they've any fear though. I think coming through the Armagh game has really stood at them mentally, because that was just ridiculous. To be able to concede 7 points in injury time and to still have the composure to score all their penalties, they're in a good place.
What do you do about Clifford?
Oh, look at, I mean, you restrict the quality of ball going into him. And even the difference first half, second half against Dublin, the positions that Clifford was getting the ball in were totally different than he was getting them in first half. So you gotta help. You gotta give your full back line a chance. You say, okay, let's make this a 50-50 ball, or at best, look, let's make sure he's getting it in areas of the field that he can't really hurt you. And you're going to, you know, if it's Sean Kelly or whoever it is, he's going to need help. He's going to need help. But, you know, even, you know, he's such a big, versatile man. Sticking too close to him is dangerous because he's just going to roll you. You need the confidence to play him from in front and be really, really positive. And as soon as it looks like, you know, a chance of a high ball or something going in over the top, his buddies have got to be there to help him out.
There'll be a situation I wondered, like where you're trying to hold on to the ball as much as possible to keep the ball away from the opposition in a way, like which carried a lot in the second half. Will Galway just try to do that? In the Derry game was interesting that Derry recycle, such that Galway only scored a point in the first half an hour. So did Galway try to build a possession game and dictate on their terms and keep the ball away from Kerry and keep the ball away from Clifford?
Yeah, but you still got to win the game. Like, you know, are you going to go out and lose a really, you know, a really low-scoring game? You still, at some stage, they're going to have to. I mean, the game will go through various periods of play and various styles at different times. You just got at times you got to slow it down. You got to hold on to the ball. But when the opportunity arises, you got to go.
And they're not built to keep the ball. They haven't. When they tried to keep the ball against Armagh, Shane Walsh kicked it across the field. Like
that was the sliding doors moment of the campaign. I mean, to come through that, maybe so. I think the Clifford thing is maybe on the whole thing. Galway's hopes hinge really how he plays.
Yeah, but again, how he plays is really going to depend on the amount and the quality of ball that he gets. And that's where I think Conroy and McDade have I think they have an edge. I'm not convinced that Kerry have the answer at midfield. I mean, David Moran, for all his his great year of service and all his qualities,
he's immobile now. Like,
well, I'm surprised if it come back to him. To be perfectly honest, I mean, you could argue he came close to losing the game from there against Dublin again.
Yeah, the coughed up possession. Yeah,
he coughed up a very simple ball. Last year's semi-final, he arguably got bullied by a pretty young, inexperienced Tyrone midfielder, and then you go back to 2 years ago against Dublin. So I'm surprised at and that sounds like I'm being really harsh on him. He's been a hell of a servant, but time moves on, and Croke Park, if you don't have the legs, Croke Park is not the place for you.
100%.
Is there a possibility he gets dropped and they just go with O'Connor and Barry?
That wouldn't hugely surprise me.
And then you have him in reserve to come on and pick passes out in the second half.
And you have, in O'Connor and Barry, you've got legs. I mean, Galway have legs.
Yeah, well,
but Conroy, in fairness, Conroy would be relatively immobile for a midfielder. He's getting on a bit, and defensively he's not great. It's a massive boost, I think, for Galway that if Bourne starts, that negates that, because Galway don't have that is definitely a worry for Conroy's a brilliant footballer, but defensively he's not. Obviously, that's not his strong point.
Yeah. Well, I think he's probably having a better year this year than he's had in a long time.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I think I would have thought his defensive qualities have improved.
And if he kicks a couple of those mad points,
and he's passing like
the crowd's going to go mad.
Yeah.
Andy, last time you were in, you were just finishing up. You just finished up with Meath, and were like not certain about ever getting back involved.
In fact, if I remember correctly, I think I probably was certain that I wouldn't be getting back involved. But anyway, yeah, I think I know where this is going.
So what
I'm
happened?
sure this surprises a lot of people, but it probably surprises me more than anyone else.
Yeah, look, I got approached. Donald Murphy, he's the treasurer up in Antrim. He asked me would I have a chat with him, and I agreed to have a chat. And then one thing led to another, and I liked what I heard. I liked what they're trying to do up in Antrim.
Will you tell us about that? Because that's the bit, right? Like we've covered the Casement story over the years here, and we've seen the footage, and finally something's happening. And we would have covered the Antrim team more over the last couple of years, just because we had a relationship pre-existing with their manager, and like it was always really interesting to hear him talk about the quality of footballer and what they were trying to do, and they achieved a lot over the last couple of years. So what was it that you heard that you thought, I'm interested in this now?
Well, I suppose I look at the bare facts of it. I mean, the population of Antrim, I think, is the second biggest population in the country now. Obviously, not everyone up there would be massive GA fans, but even if you half it, still a decent, over 300,000. You know, it's still a very decent population. Organisation-wise, they seem very organised. They seem well funded as regards being able to look after the team. The facilities that they have are, you know, second to none. The geography of the county itself would mean that there's nobody any more than, say, 35 minutes away from a training centre. In a lot of ways, it's like Dublin. It's, you know, structurally. You have the body, the club scene up there is still very, very strong, very, very competitive. And I suppose the challenge is to get them playing to, you know, the limits of what they're capable of. Also would think that, you know, Enda and Stevie, the work they've done in the last couple of years, have done a fair bit of heavy lifting, and they look like the culture, the attitude towards what they're capable of seems to be changing. The Casement Park situation, that's exciting too for anybody, you know, in Gaelic games at all. I mean, to have history like that and to, you know, a project like that is exciting. Should get an awful lot of people on board. They have the Saffron business community up there, getting a lot of people behind the Gaelic games up there, and they are very passionate. You know, the half that do support GA up there are very, very passionate about their games. So, all in all, I got persuaded. Maybe I was easily persuaded. I don't know, but it was probably never going to be another team from Leinster. Wasn't going to be a team in Division 2. So I guess it ticked a good few boxes.
Were you surprised at yourself how you decided, yeah, after all of that, yeah, I'm going back in? Did one half of Andy McEntee talk to the other half and say, what are you doing here? Like, cop on to yourself.
No, sure, you know, the two halves or the three halves or whatever, they're always talking to each other there. Sometimes they just don't make sense. Yeah. I mean, you gotta go. You know, you write down the pros and the cons, and you talk to a lot of the important stakeholders. You know, my wife Catherine being one of those. You know, after 2 or 3 weeks, she was probably going, "Oh my God, I wish he'd go out and train somebody or go somewhere."
I bought you new golf clubs.
I did that, yeah. That only goes for... She gets fed up with me playing golf too. Yeah, look at, I mean, yeah.
Do you feel like you've unfinished business? Is that like, as an inter-county manager, that's like your time was horribly interrupted with COVID, and then the situation at Meath in the last year was obviously difficult with the county board situation. Then actually a clear run at it with the full support of everybody from the get-go, taking on board all the lessons you've learned when it's normal times, and you can have training sessions, and you can go meet people for coffee. Do you feel like you didn't fully scratch the itch of what it means to be an inter-county manager?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I didn't face any more difficult times than anybody else. So I mean, you know, that's the way it was. I don't feel hard done by you know, the last couple of years. I've had 6 great years with the lads. I know most of them from a very young age. So I mean, that was definitely something I always wanted to do. I don't think that's the case. I mean, I think I like doing what I do.
Jack O'Connor's talking about it basically being a semi-professional gig, and the amount of organisational and backroom team and management. Like for him, it doesn't sound like it's a burden, obviously, especially not now that he's not doing the travelling. You will be doing a bit of travelling, but it's not too bad to Belfast.
No, I keep telling Catherine it's an hour and a half, but it's possibly a little bit more. But anyway, yeah. Look, I mean, it's not a hard drive. You know, you're on the motorway pretty much the whole way up to Jordanstown. I'm really excited about the facilities up there. and the backup team that they have around them. I mean, they have a full-time strength and conditioning guy up there, Brendan Murphy. Fantastic experience of all the availability of the sports science unit in Jordanstown. So, you know, that bit in itself, I just love to see where you can get to with a bunch of fellas who are totally committed.
There was the potential, really, that
yeah, that's. I think that's the truth. Yeah.
What is the potential?
The potential is the same as it is for any talented group of fellas. The potential is endless. It just depends on how much you want to put into it, and how much it means to you, and what you're prepared to sacrifice. It's like any other team. It's, as we all know, it's a very competitive place out there, but up in Ulster in particular. So
I suppose with the Tailteann Cup, the narrative has changed for a county like Antrim a bit now, where you see, you know, there are those kind of layers of what you want to achieve beyond the league.
Yeah, well, there's three avenues of success, really. I mean, there's the championship itself, there's the league, and now there's a Tailteann Cup. So there's three ways that you could have a decent year, or a decent couple of years. So that in itself has got to be, you know, an incentive to guys who are wondering, you know, where can this get to?
Can you become a bit of a voice for Casement as well in terms of your role? Because I think in fairness, Off the Ball have covered it, but there's probably a bit of a partitionist divide in terms of the South not realising how much of a calamity this has been, really. Like I think I was at one of the last games there when they beat Galway by a point in 2011, maybe 2012, one of the last games, and it's just sad. Like, you could tell how passionate they were, as you say, and it was just really sad, the disrepair.
Yeah, and I think if you could get the team on a bit of a roll and you get a bit of success, I mean, I think the support levels from all, you know, sectors of the community would and could get behind it. So I mean, I think that in itself could be
a massive
unifying,
symbiotic
you know,
thing.
absolutely everything.
Yeah.
There's a lot of possibilities here.
One last question for you: have you got a backroom team sorted yet, or is that something that'll happen over?
No, we're just finalising a few bits and pieces.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
A defensive coach from the north, perhaps. They're very, very en vogue.
Sure, that's the only place you can get a defensive coach, isn't it?
Well, listen, we wish you the very best of luck with it. Who's going to win on Sunday? You're close to saying Galway.
I think there's a couple of possibilities. I think if Kerry come out and really, you know, hit the ground running, there could be a bit in it. If it goes down the wire, I'm going for Galway and a close one.
Right, well, it'll be a cracker if that's the case. Andy, we wish you the very best of luck in Antrim. Thanks very much for joining us in
Sorry
studio
for being
today.
a bit late.
No, you're grand. The traffic's not great.